Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe my channel. The diagnosis was a stone dropped into the still water of their lives, the ripples reaching every corner, changing the shape of everything. Clara sat on the edge of her perfectly made bed, the slip of paper with the doctor's elegant, terrifying script feeling as heavy as a tombstone in her hand. Sarcoidosis. A word she'd had to look up. A word that meant fatigue, pain, a future of careful management and unknown outcomes. She was the rock, the organizer, the one who remembered everyone's birthdays and made sure there was always coffee in the pantry. Now, she felt like sand. Downstairs, she could hear the familiar sounds of her family. Her husband, Ben, was clattering pans, attempting to make dinner. Her two teenagers were bickering over the remote. It was the soundtrack of her life, a symphony of beautiful, ordinary chaos that now felt distant, as if she were hearing it from the end of a long tunnel. She had told them over a meatloaf that was too salty and green beans that were too soft. She'd kept her voice steady, using the clinical terms the doctor had used, downplaying the fear that clawed at her throat. "It's manageable," she'd said. "We'll just have to adjust." The silence that followed was louder than any argument. Her daughter Lily had stared at her plate, her lower lip trembling. Her son Jake had shoved his chair back. "I have homework," he'd muttered, fleeing the room. That was a week ago. Since then, the house had become a museum of careful behavior. The kids stopped bickering. Ben started doing the laundry without being asked, folding her sweaters with the heartbreaking, clumsy tenderness. They tiptoed around her, their voices hushed, their eyes full of pity that felt like a cage. They saw the diagnosis, not her. They saw the patient, not the mother, the wife, the woman who secretly loved bad action movies and wanted to learn how to salsa. The breaking point was a casserole. A neighbor, well-meaning, had brought over a tuna noodle casserole, the universal language of sympathy. Clara looked at the Pyrex dish on her counter, a monument to her new identity as the sick one, and something inside her snapped. She waited until the house was quiet. Then she went to the kitchen. She didn't take her medication. She didn't check her temperature. She took out flour, butter, and a bag of dark chocolate chips. She was elbow deep in cookie dough when Lily wandered in, drawn by the scent of browning butter and vanilla. "What are you doing?" Lily asked, her voice tentative. "I'm making a mess," Clara said, flicking a bit of flour at her daughter. "And I'm making cookies." A slow smile spread across Lily's face. Soon, Jake appeared, lured by the noise. He didn't say anything, just picked up a spatula and started scraping the bowl. Ben found them there, covered in flour, the radio playing an old pop song too loudly. He didn't tell Clara to sit down and rest. He just grabbed her hand and spun her in a clumsy, doughy two-step right there in the middle of the kitchen. They were a disaster. Cookie dough was smeared on the cabinets. Flour dusted the floor. But for the first time since the diagnosis, the house was filled with laughter. Real, uncareful, messy laughter. Later, surrounded by the wreckage and her sleeping family, Clara finally understood. The illness was a part of her now, an uninvited guest that had taken up residence in her body. But it wasn't the landlord of her life. It didn't get to dictate the music or the mess or the love. She looked at the Pyrex dish of tuna casserole still sitting untouched on the counter. Tomorrow, she would return it to the neighbor, and she would include a note with the recipe for the chocolate chip cookies.